You get home exhausted and suddenly it's midnight. Another evening vanished with nothing to show for it. The Japanese handle this differently through methods that work with exhaustion, not against it. They had 5 philosophical principles that transform tired hours into your most productive time. And by the end of this video, you'll have their exact system for making progress when you're running on empty, starting with what your brain does wrong at 6 p.m. Part 1. Switch modes like a weapon. Your first problem is simple. You're trying to build personal projects with a brain that just spent 8 hours in survival mode. That's like trying to run a second marathon immediately after finishing the first one. You're using depleted equipment for a fresh mission. The Japanese understood that work brain and growth brain are completely different operating systems. Samurai trained in what they called different minds for different purposes. Combat mind for battle, reactive, intense, survival-focused. Strategic mind for planning, calm, creative, long-term. Daily mind for routine tasks, steady, sustainable, automatic. Musashi wrote about this in the Book of 5 Rings as changing rhythm. When one approach stopped working in battle, you didn't push harder with the same approach. You shifted to an entirely different rhythm, like switching from offense to defense in sports, not because you're losing, but because the situation demands different tactics. Here's what's happening in your brain at 6 p.m. You're still running work software. That software is designed for one thing: protecting your job. It operates on external pressure, deadlines, other people's expectations. It's defensive by nature. It says yes when you want to say no. It avoids risk. It seeks approval. But building something for yourself requires completely different mental software. It needs curiosity instead of compliance, vision instead of just execution, risk-taking instead of risk avoidance. You can't run creative software on a brain that's been in defensive mode all day. Most people never realize they need to switch operating systems. They get home and try to force personal progress with the same exhausted, defensive, people-pleasing brain they used at work. Then they wonder why they procrastinate, why they can't focus, why everything feels so hard. The Japanese approach was deliberate mental transition. Warriors didn't go straight from battle to rest. They had transition rituals, maintaining weapons, practicing calligraphy, studying philosophy. These weren't random activities. They were specifically chosen to shift the mind from one state to another. For you, this means creating a clear line between work you and builder you. Work you follows orders, avoids conflict, protects the paycheck. Builder you takes risks, creates value, follows vision. These are incompatible programs. You can't run both at once. The practical shift. When you leave work, leave that mental state in the parking lot. Don't check emails. Don't think about tomorrow's meetings. Don't carry work problems home. That version of you is done for the day. The version that walks through your door has one job: building what matters to you. But here's where most people fail. They successfully shut down work mode only to boot up consumption mode. They trade serving their boss for serving Netflix. That's not switching to growth mode, that's just switching to vegetation mode. The second principle shows you what to do with that fresh mental state. Part 2. Collect weapons. Don't watch others use theirs. Here's what you're actually doing every night. You watch successful people on YouTube, read about entrepreneurs crushing it on Twitter, scroll through transformation stories on Instagram. Then you close your phone feeling worse about yourself than when you started. You tell yourself you're learning, but you're not. You're procrastinating with educational content. There's a massive difference between consuming success stories and building your own. One makes you feel productive while keeping you stuck. The other actually moves you forward. The Japanese merchants of Edo period understood this distinction. They had a practice called intelligence gathering. But it wasn't random browsing. They'd collect specific information, tools, and resources during the week, then sit down weekly to analyze and deploy them strategically. They didn't consume for entertainment. They collected for future advantage. Think about what happens when you watch that entrepreneurship video. You get a dopamine hit from imagining yourself succeeding. Your brain literally rewards you for someone else's achievement. Then the video ends. You've taken zero action, but your brain thinks you've done something productive. It's mental masturbation disguised as education. Here's the brutal truth. Every minute you spend watching someone else's success is a minute you're not building your own. You're not getting inspired, you're getting sedated. You're using other people's achievements as a psychological pacifier to avoid facing your own inaction. The Japanese approach flips this completely. Instead of consuming, you collect. Instead of watching, you warehouse. There's a critical difference. Consumption drains your energy and gives you nothing. Collection builds your arsenal for future deployment. When you find a useful article, You don't read it immediately. You save it for when you're actually working on that problem. See a tutorial for a skill you want to learn? Download it and file it away until you're ready to practice. Come across a strategy that could help your business? Document it and move on. This isn't procrastination. It's strategic positioning. You're building a personal library of solutions for problems you haven't faced yet, like a general stockpiling weapons before knowing which battle he'll fight. When the moment comes, you're armed and ready. The mental shift is crucial. You're not a consumer anymore. You're a collector. Consumers seek entertainment and call it education. Collectors build arsenals and wait for the right moment to deploy them. One is passive, the other is strategic. Every evening, spend 15 minutes collecting, not consuming. Find 3 resources related to your goals. Save them, organize them, then walk away. Don't read them, don't watch them, just collect them. Your job isn't to consume information. It's to be ready when you need it. But collecting weapons means nothing if you never draw them. That's where the third principle comes in. How to take daily action, even when motivation is zero. Part 3. 1 cut daily. You're waiting for perfect conditions that never come. 2-hour blocks of uninterrupted time, full energy reserves, the right mood, perfect setup. That's exactly why you've been stuck for months. You're waiting for a reality that doesn't exist after a full workday. Japanese swordsmen had a principle: 1 cut, 1 life. Every sword movement, even in practice, had to count. They didn't flail around making 1,000 sloppy cuts hoping one would land. They made 1 precise cut with full intention. Quality over quantity, always. This is what Kaizen really means, not the corporate bastardization of continuous improvement through harder work. Real Kaizen is about touching your craft daily, no matter how briefly. Like keeping a blade sharp with consistent maintenance rather than letting it rust, then trying to restore it. Here's the mindset shift. 10 minutes of actual work beats 3 hours of planning to work someday. 1 paragraph written beats the perfect novel outlined in your head. 1 sales call beats the flawless pitch deck you'll never finish. Progress happens in the doing, not the dreaming. But let me address the trap that kills most people, the all or nothing mentality. You write 10 things on your to-do list. You complete 7. Then you feel like a failure because you didn't hit 10. That's insane, but that's how our brains work. Here's the reality check. If you put 10 things on your list and complete 7, you won. Without that list, you would have done 0. The list didn't make you fail at 3 things. It made you succeed at 7 things you otherwise would have ignored. The Japanese understood this through their concept of directional progress. A sword doesn't need to be perfect today. It needs to be sharper than yesterday. Your project doesn't need to be finished today. It needs to be further along than yesterday. Pick 1 thing, just 1, that actually matters to your future, not 10 things. 1. Touch it every single night for a minimum of 5 minutes. Write 1 paragraph of that book. Make 1 business call. Practice 1 song on that guitar. Code 1 function. Draw 1 sketch. 5 minutes seems insulting to your ambition, but here's what happens. First, you break the mental barrier of starting. Second, you often continue past 5 minutes once you begin. Third, even if you stop at 5, you've maintained the neural pathway. You've told your brain this still matters. Your ego wants the heroic 8-hour session. Your future needs the daily 5-minute touch. One builds fantasies, the other builds results. But some nights you're completely destroyed, can barely think, barely move. That's when most people break their streak and spiral into quitting. The 4th principle prevents that collapse. Part 4. Minimum effective dose. Remember those 7 tasks you completed from your list of 10? Sometimes you won't even hit 1. You'll get home destroyed, physically sick, mentally drained, life hitting from all angles. Most people respond by doing absolutely nothing, 0. Then the guilt kicks in, then they quit entirely. This is how dreams die, not in one dramatic moment, but through accumulated zeros. The Japanese craftsmen understood this through the concept of maintaining the minimum flame, like keeping a fire barely alive through the night, just enough heat to survive until morning when you can feed it properly again. Here's what really happens. Life doesn't care about your goals. You get sick for 2 days. Then your cousin's wedding eats up a weekend. Friday preparing, Saturday celebrating, Sunday recovering. A work emergency destroys 3 evenings straight. Suddenly a week is gone. When you finally return to your project, it feels foreign. The momentum is dead. Starting again feels harder than starting fresh. This is where most people quit. They think, I've lost my rhythm, might as well wait until New Year to start over. But the Japanese approach is different. They understood that progress isn't a straight line, it's a series of waves. When you zoom out, it trends upward. When you zoom in, it's full of valleys and peaks. On your absolute worst days, your only job is to maintain proof of life. Read one paragraph of that business book, write one sentence of your novel, send one email, do one push-up, practice one chord. The quality doesn't matter. The quantity doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is not hitting zero. Think of it like progressive overload in reverse. When life crushes you, you don't abandon the gym, you just go lighter. One exercise instead of 5, empty barbell instead of loaded. You maintain the pattern until you can build back up. Same principle applies to any goal, the mindset shift. On bad days, you're not trying to progress, you're trying to not regress. You're keeping the pilot light lit. You're telling your brain, this still matters, even when I have nothing left to give. Lower your bar to the floor when necessary. If you normally write 1,000 words, write 10. If you normally practice guitar for an hour, play for 60 seconds. If you normally make 5 sales calls, make 1. But never, never hit 0. 0 is death, 1 is life. Part 5. Strategic Void. You've switched modes, collected resources, made daily progress, maintained your flame, but something's still missing. You're doing everything right, yet feel like you're running in place. That's because you've eliminated the most important ingredient, empty space. Look at your day. Every second is filled. Podcast while commuting, music while working out, YouTube while eating, audiobook while walking. Your brain is constantly consuming, never digesting. You've become an information bulimic, binging on content, but extracting zero nutrition. The Japanese have a concept called ma, the void between things. In music, it's not the notes that create emotion, it's the silence between them. In conversation, it's the pause that gives words weight. In strategy, it's the empty space that reveals your opponent's intentions. You already know this is true. Your best ideas don't come during your productivity sessions. They come in the shower, while walking without headphones, that random moment when you're staring at nothing. Know why? Because that's when your brain finally has space to work. Here's what's actually happening. Throughout the day, your subconscious collects puzzle pieces, problems, patterns, possibilities, but it can't assemble them while you're shoving new pieces in its face. It needs quiet workshop time to connect dots, test combinations, build solutions. Modern culture has programmed you to fear this emptiness. If you're not consuming or producing, you're wasting time. If your mind wanders during reading, you're unfocused. But this is backwards. The greatest innovations in history came from people staring at walls, taking long walks, sitting in silence. Einstein called them thought experiments. Tesla visualized inventions in empty rooms. Japanese Zen masters spent hours in purposeless sitting. They weren't lazy, they were giving their minds space to create. The world you live in was imagined into existence by people who knew how to be productively empty. Build strategic voids into your evening, between switching from work mode to growth mode. 5 minutes of nothing. After collecting resources, 5 minutes of nothing. Following your daily practice, 5 minutes of nothing. Not meditation, not breathing exercises, just existing without input or output. This isn't rest, this isn't recovery. This is when your subconscious earns its keep. All that information you've collected, all those skills you've practiced, all those problems you're facing, they're being processed in the background. But only if you give them space. These 5 principles work together as one system. Mode switching gives you fresh energy. Strategic collection arms you with tools. Daily contact maintains momentum. Minimum dose preserves the flame. And strategic emptiness is where it all synthesizes into breakthrough moments. Don't try to revolutionize your entire evening tomorrow. That's the same all or nothing thinking that got you stuck. Layer these principles week by week. By week 5, you'll have a complete system running. Your future isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built Tuesday night when you're tired but right anyway. Thursday evening when you collect resources instead of scrolling. Sunday night when you maintain the flame despite feeling destroyed. Those 3 hours after work, they're not recovery time, they're building time. The only question is, what are you building? Your dreams or your regrets?